What is faith? It is belief in the absence of evidence. Now, I don't propose to tell anybody what to believe, but for me, believing when there's no compelling evidence is a mistake. The idea is to withhold belief until there is compelling evidence. And if the universe does not comply with our predispositions, okay, then we have the wrenching obligation to accommodate to the way the universe really is. Religion deals with history, with poetry, with great literature, with ethics, with morals, including the morality of treating compassionately the least fortunate among us. All of these are things that I endorse wholeheartedly. Where religion gets into trouble is in those cases that it pretends to know something about science. The science in the Bible, for example, was acquired by the Jews from the Babylonians during the Babylonian captivity of 600 BC. That was the best science on the planet then. But we've learned something since then.
Several years ago, I had the opportunity to have exchange correspondence with Carl Sagan. And in our correspondence, we were talking about the Big Bang cosmology and about how the astrophysicists of our day have gone back in time to the last nanosecond before this eternally organized piece of stable condensation of energy and material before it blew up. He said, that's as far back as we can go and no further. And I said to Dr. Sagan, how can you call yourself a scientist and stop your inquiry into truth at the most important moment in all of history? He said, well, we just don't have to go there. I said, yeah, you do have to go there. Because you have to account for this singularity, this point of singularity that for all eternity was stable and organized, immutable, in a state of inertia, and then suddenly, inexplicably, on a Tuesday afternoon at 4 o'clock, it blows sky high. Stop me if I'm lying, but doesn't the law of inertia say that anything that is at rest tends to remain at rest unless acted upon by an outside force? Your theory of the origin of the cosmos screams for a self-existent eternal being. You can't have it without it.
Roman Catholicism, Reformed Judaism, most of the mainstream Protestant denominations have no difficulty with the idea that humans have evolved from other creatures, that the Earth is 4.6 billion years old, with the Big Bang. They don't have any trouble with that. The trouble comes with people who are biblical literalists, who believe that the Bible is dictated by the creator of the universe to an unerring stenographer.
And so therefore they...
And has no metaphor or allegory.
The minute you say there's a beginning to the universe, you've got two options. Either the universe came out of nothing, all by itself, or the universe was created by something that is self-existent and eternal.
The word God covers an enormous range of different ideas, and you recognize that in the way you phrase the question. Running from an outsized, light-skinned male with a long white beard sitting in a throne in the sky and tallying the fall of every sparrow, for which there is no evidence. To my mind, if anybody has some, I sure would like to see it. To the kind of God that Einstein or Spinoza talked about, which is very close to the sum total of the laws of the universe. Now, it would be crazy to deny that there are laws in the universe, and if that's what you want to call God, then of course God exists.
This idea that laws will create a universe
Where did that come from? I once had a little discussion with Peter Atkins, who's a world-famous professor of physical chemistry and a noted atheist. I said to him, Peter, what do you think created the universe? And he said, mathematics. And I was so caught off guard that I rather rudely laughed. And he was quite annoyed, and he said, what are you laughing at? Well, I said, Peter, I'm sorry, I am a mathematician, and that must be the silliest thing I've ever heard in my life. He said, why is it silly? Well, I said, let me put it to you simply. 1 + 1 = 2. Did that ever put $2 in your pocket? Newton's laws of motion never moved a baseball in the history of the universe. It's people with bats do that. And when I see some of these people who in their own field are very bright, talking sheer nonsense in order to get rid of God, well, you can forgive me for thinking that something is going desperately wrong.
I personally have a problem with the idea of gut religion, religion based on revelation, so-called, because anybody can say that God told them anything and justify any kind of statement with no self-correction. And the most impressive aspect of the scientific method is that it has a built-in error correction machinery, and that humans are deeply vulnerable to error. That's why experimentalists check their instruments. That's why scientists check each other's results. This is the built-in error correction mechanism designed to steer us away from fallacy, including the fact that we are fully capable of deceiving ourselves. I find none of that error correction machinery in bureaucratic religions. If you say, yes, the universe was created 15 billion years ago from nothing, and I say, how was it created? And you say, God created it. What happens when I say to you, and who created God?
Who created God? If you ask that question, it shows you've immediately categorized God as created. So you're talking about a created God. Christian claim is that God wasn't created. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He already was. So the central Christian claim is, and in Judaism and Islam, of course, equally, is that God is eternal. So the question, by definition, doesn't even apply to him. Is there a thing or a being that never came to be? And that is the Christian claim, and he's called God. You say that who created God is a legitimate question. I don't think it is, but let me assume now that it is. You believe that the universe created you. So I beg leave now to ask you, using your own question, who created your creator? I'm waiting still for the answer.
There is an open question of whether the universe needs a creator. Why not save a step and say the creation of the universe is beyond our ability to understand? What exactly is gained by saying that some being about whom I have no other evidence called God created it? And if you say nobody created God, God was here always, then why not save a step and say nobody created the universe? The universe was here always. Again, what exactly is it we learn from the notion that God created the universe?